Hello, I'm here to talk to Dr Teena Clouston about her book Challenging Stress, Burnout and Rust-out, Finding Balance in Busy Lives. Firstly, Dr Clouston, could you tell us a bit about yourself, your professional background, etc.?
Yes, of course. I'm presently employed as a reader, that's an associate professor, in occupational therapy and life balance at Cardiff University, which is in Wales in the UK. Before moving into academia, and I've been in that setting for probably about 18 years now, I had a clinical career in the NHS in the UK. The NHS, or the National Health Service, is a not-for-profit organisation, and in that setting I worked as an occupational therapist and a counsellor, as well as a manager.
Right. Well, what made you want to write about work-life balance?
Well, there were a couple of reasons for that, really. First, as an occupational therapist, I have a professional interest in life balance because the profession believes that to achieve a state of balance is a cornerstone of well-being. Second, I worked in the mental health field in the NHS, and I found I was working with people every day who were suffering from stress, and many of those people were in that state because they were either overworked or overbusy, or indeed, and not unsurprisingly, I think most of you would imagine, they were underoccupied or unemployed. So there's a whole spectrum of imbalance that can impact on people's lives, from overwork to really underwork. I think it would also be fair to say that I saw real pressures in my work colleagues and friends who were struggling to manage paid work commitments in the rest of their lives. And that particularly impacted on family commitments. But as an occupational therapist, I was very interested in the fact that it also impacted on their meaning in life and their sense of satisfaction.
Okay, well, you've been researching work-life balance for several years now. What's kept you motivated?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and I think perhaps the best way to answer it is to say I find it inherently fascinating that work-life balance and general life imbalance is such a problem which we all experience from time to time in our lives, and if we don't experience it for ourselves, we're certainly seeing it in others around us. Yet it still occurs, and we all seem to take it for granted. There seems to be no real drive to address the problem, and although a lot of changes have been made in the workplace around flexibility and offering what they call work-life balance initiatives, in fact what a lot of those strategies do is encourage people to stay at work more and not to spend time on their personal lives. And even more fascinating than that is that this problem seems to be getting worse as our global economy builds and we adopt more what we call neoliberal principles. Those are pressures around focusing on the individual as being very responsible for their own work-life balance. So we're finding that people are beginning to feel very concerned about their work-life balance and worrying about how they can manage it for themselves. That's putting a lot of pressure on them. At the same time, the labour market is causing more and more pressures on the working person to stay at work longer, to do more in less time, and because those pressures are increasing, people are staying in work longer, coming in earlier, taking work home at the weekends, and so it really is a problem that's just spiralling. That keeps me interested.
Right. So, what's the most challenging aspect of your work?
Well, that's quite an interesting question because as much as I write and research a lot about work-life balance and fundamentally believe that it's a doorway to well-being, I do find it difficult to actually find the time to do my writing and publish my work around work-life balance, which is actually the bit of the job that I enjoy the most. So I think that's probably the biggest dilemma I have in my working life.
Right, okay. So given that, what actually inspired you to write Challenging Stress, Burnout and Rust-out, Finding Balance in Busy Lives?
Well, I really was quite driven to write the book because I actually feel that work-life balance is such an endemic problem now, that it really is perhaps the major cause of stress and ill health, certainly in Western economies and in the Western world. And through global markets, I have to say it's spreading far beyond the boundaries of Western economic countries. And you know, I would say it is probably the greatest threat to human health and well-being that we're kind of handling at the moment. So it is really very interesting. Moreover, and this is perhaps even more ignored than the actual epidemic of work-life imbalance we're dealing with, and that is that in order to fuel our productivity and growth, we're encouraging a lot of consumerism, and we're using our natural resources at frightening rates to fuel the economy. That's causing wider ecological imbalance, which merely feeds back into our own individual and social states of imbalance, because fundamentally we're all interconnected, and consequently imbalance is happening at multiple levels, and I wanted to try to wake people up to that fact if I could.
Right. So, given that's the sort of wider view, if you were going to give one tip to someone struggling to maintain a work-life balance, what would it be?
Well, I'll give you two, because I think I've already touched on them as we've been talking. And, you know, apart from trying to get some sense of autonomy over your life, whether that be at work or outside of it, depending on where your biggest areas of pressure and busyness are, I would say you do have to try and find the time to do something meaningful, something important to you every day. We all have an activity or a hobby or an interest that we really, really enjoy doing, and it's the first thing that goes when we're under huge stress, pressure in our work-life balance. And the other thing I would say to do is take time to walk in nature and notice it and pay attention to it, because that's around us everywhere, every day, and it's free and very healing thing to do. So small steps like that can actually make a very big difference. There's a lot more ideas in the book that you can look at and change your life in order to try and achieve that work-life balance.
Well, Dr. Teena Clouston, thank you very much.
Thank you.